Hey guys, it is Spooky Noodles, and I've seen a few people do this, and I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon. Um, People have been talking about what their channels are about, and I thought, why not I talk about what Spooky Noodles, this YouTube channel, is about? Um, so basically, I do horror movie reviews, horror book reviews. I prefer doing horror book reviews. I've lately been doing horror movie reviews, but that's not going to be a permanent thing. That's just while I'm in this reading funk, I'm watching movies to make up the lack of book reviews. And yeah, I've been trying to watch um, obscure movies or movies that people don't really watch that much, like Spasms. And what was the other one I watched that no one ever heard of? The Hitchhiker or the Hitcher. Um, People hadn't heard about those two movies. Hitcher was good. Spasms not so much, but that's besides the point. Spooky Noodles is this YouTube channel that I host, and I am Spooky Noodles, aka Nicholas Dennis, or if you want to go by my author name, Nicholas Gray. Now, why I have a different author name, pen name, than I do my real name? Well, the reason for a pseudonym is my family. Now, I don't want to alienate my family at all, and I know my family's probably going to be ticked off. The one side of my family is going to be ticked off when they learn that I haven't taken on the Dennis name for my writing career. But the reason for the pseudonym is because I there's a few reasons why, honestly. If I had to say one major reason, it's because I don't want my family to be looking up my work. Even though I broadcast that Nicholas Gray is me, they don't know that. They don't watch these videos. They're not on my Facebook, so they wouldn't know to look up Nicholas Gray to find my work. Because if they were to find my horror stories, they would probably judge me hardcore. They wouldn't like what I have to write. Um, they would say it's blasphemous. That I should write happier stories, and they just outright would not like what I have to offer them. And then they would be mad about other reasons. So even though if they found out I wrote and I didn't use the last name, sure they would be mad. But if they ever found out what the name I write under and they've read my stuff, they'd be even madder. So that's why I go under a pseudonym. I also go under the pseudonym Nicholas Gray because Gray sounds much better than Dennis. Because, for one, you can't trust a guy with two first names. That's a general rule. And, yeah, so I was thinking about my author name, and there was a few author names I chose. Most of them had to do with Gray being the last name. I had one which was, like, N.E. Gray, but I didn't like that. And then I had Dennis Gray, where I used my two last names, and that was my author name, DG, Dennis Gray, which was really a good idea. And I actually kind of hate the fact that I went with Nicholas Gray. But I love my name, Nicholas. I love the name Nicholas. I know that's kind of shallow or whatever. Or not shallow, but like, usually people don't like their names that they were given, but I like my name. Nicholas is a good name, Nick. My sister calls me Nedward because my middle name's Edward, so she just Nedward. But I chose Nicholas Gray because Gray sounds more ominous and dark and horror. So when you think horror, and if you ever think about what colors may that horror would represent, I would think dark colors. So gray would be one of them. Like, when I think gray, I think like a foggy mist type thing. Not a foggy mist; those are two different things. But like a fog, and I don't know. When I hear the last name Gray, which is my mother's first maiden name, she had one name. Her name was Wendy Gray, and then she was adopted by my grandpa and became Wendy Kufta, and then she married my dad, becoming Wendy Dennis. So she has technically 3 last names. I was gonna go with Kufta. Not gonna lie, I like the last name Kufta, but Kufta has Irish descent, and it's an Irish name, and I am not Irish. Even though I want to be Irish, I will never be Irish. So I decided to go with Gray. Gray was the most, it made the most sense. Out of all the things, all 3 things in mind, Gray made the most sense. And then I just kept my first name, even though I really should have done Dennis Gray. Dennis Gray would have been a really cool author name, but Nicholas Gray works too. Plus, my signature for Dennis isn't the greatest. Nicholas looks much better on paper than my last name, Dennis. So Dennis Gray would probably look lame. But Nicholas Gray works, so I went with Nicholas Gray. That's a little story about why I go under a pseudonym or a pen name. But yeah, it's Nicholas Gray. If you look me up, I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/grayhorror. Excuse me. You will find my author page there, and I occasionally post relative things towards my work. And occasionally I will post funny horror-themed pictures. I give updates to my work, like I said before, and I will be posting my work there. I occasionally post stuff to Reddit, so I'll leave a link in my Facebook page so people can read my work. Because not everyone has money to pay for books. Like my collection that's going to be coming out, not everyone can afford it. But I am making sure that people who do buy the book get stories that haven't been released yet. So yeah. But I also release free stuff for the people who do not have money to afford that stuff. What else do I want to talk about? Spooky Noodles. Where did I come up with the name Spooky Noodles? Spooky Noodles came from how I started on YouTube. I started narrating creepypastas. And if you don't know what a creepypasta is, it is a short internet story that is essentially creepy. And you'd find those on the creepypasta website or the Reddit forums. Just forums in general is where these spread out. And famous creepypastas would be like The Rake, Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, those type of things. I narrated a few what I considered creepypastas, even though I took most of them down. A few remain. I've narrated a short story by Elvin Schwartz, a few of them actually. And then I think I narrated a few stories, but I took them down because it was from a book I narrated, or not narrated, but I took the story from a book I read that I really enjoyed, and then I narrated it on my channel. Then I realized that's not fair to the author, because even though no one watched it, it wasn't fair to the author because I was basically giving out their work for free without letting them know, so I took it down. But I still have some of those Elvin Schwartz narrations if you want to go check those out. They're way back on my channel. Right when I first started. My second most viewed video is actually a narration, so that's something to know. My first is a review of Richard Lehman's The Traveling Vampire Show. That got me over 100 views, so pretty crazy stuff. But Spooky Noodles basically is just another form of creepypasta. So I took creepy and instead used spooky. And pasta has noodles, so therefore I'm Spooky Noodles. That's where the name generated or came from. So I've told you Nicholas Gray, my pen name. I've told you Spooky Noodles. This channel, like I said, is about horror. I'll talk about cool things I own. I made a video a long time ago, just showing you stuff that I own that is creepy. Like I showed you my finger lighter. I have a tooth lighter, which is really cool. I have a box that has H.P. Lovecraft's face with a bunch of tendrils or octopus tentacles coming out of it. I have a necklace with an eye on it. So I have a few weird things that I like to show off every once in a while. I just had to throw away something because it somehow ended up in the cold and it chipped and a bunch of the teeth chipped off and it doesn't look good anymore, so I tossed it in the garbage. I'm gonna replace it one day. But I get my stuff from like Moldy Creations and Morgan's Mutations. They're on Etsy. They're really cool stuff. When I can't find stuff on their sites, then I look somewhere else. But I have a tendency to shop at Moldy Creations and Morgan's Mutations. But yeah, that's what my YouTube channel is about. We do horror reviews, horror movie reviews, and horror book reviews. Then we show off some of the creepy stuff I own, and every once in a while I say happy holidays, you know? I'm a cool guy. I'm chill, I think. I like to think. I like to talk about books I'm reading. Sometimes I talk about my writing a little bit too much. I have almost a daily writing vlog. Today I will not be posting a writing vlog, I don't think, because I'm not writing that much. I wrote like maybe 100 words today. Not enough to what's the word? Not enough to post a video for. I can't think of the word, but yeah. I've been doing some studying. Like I had to do some studying about how long it takes for someone to die of heat exhaustion, which is 7 to 10 days. Take that into consideration when I'm writing my story. Not everyone's gonna like this novella that I'm working on. People will think, oh, you can easily escape out of a trunk. It's not true, but people can think that and make their own, judge the book however they want. I don't think it's going to be a highly rated novella. It's just one that I want to write, and I think it's going to be fun to write. But that's besides the point. Other facts about me is I have a dog named Lula. I have a tortoise named Chester. I am a ex-cancer survivor, or not ex-cancer. I am a cancer survivor. I suffered from stage 3B Hodgkin's lymphoma. I received AVBD chemotherapy, and I also suffer from ASD, which if you don't know what that is, and don't judge me for this, please. I took me forever to agree to this diagnosis, and I still don't like being labeled things. So this is kind of a hard thing for me to even say about myself. But I have ASD, which stands for Autistic Spectrum Disorder. And I'm on the high functioning level. So all that means is that I overly obsess about some things, and I could talk for hours about those things, and supposedly I have a high IQ, but that's not true. I just have a large knowledge of some things. And I find that I have knowledge that scatters throughout stuff. I wish I had a bigger vocabulary. I'm trying to strengthen my vocabulary by reading. In fact, I started reading 2 to 3 years ago, like hardcore reading. Like before then, I read a book every once in a while. I wasn't a big reader. What really started my reading, not career per se, but my reading stint, is that my grandpa gave me a book and said, this book is going to be you're going to love this book. And I said, okay. And I didn't really read at the time, so I opened up the book, and it was called Michael Vey. I think it was called like The Lightning Thief or something like that. Let me look up what it was called. It's a huge series. Michael Vey, the first book was called The Prisoner of Cell 25. So I was wrong. I was really, really wrong. Um, but it's a series. Um, let me find the. Where's the series? Oh, apparently there's a movie coming out for it. That's pretty neat. I own most of the books, but I don't know where they went. Like, they have Rise of the Elgin, Battle of the Ampere. I read the first 3 books of the series. Apparently there is 7 of these books, and I've made it through 3. I own 4, 5, and 6. I don't know where they are. I don't own 7. Never owned 7. Didn't know 7 even existed. But basically, it's about this kid who is a lot like me. Like, he has facial tics, and I have tics in my hands, where I hand wag a lot, and I related a lot to this character. And reading him and his journey through, he has this power of electricity, and he meets other people that are like him, and they basically try to fight this guy who's trying to collect them all and then make them his little soldiers. And they're called the Elgin. And they capture these kids, and then they escape, and the series just goes on and on. That's when I found out that I loved books. I absolutely adored this series. I made it to book number 3. Maybe one day I'll pick it back up. I'm not much into that kind of YA, I don't know what to call it, fantasy? I don't know. I just call it literature, YA. I don't know. I don't know what to call it, honestly. But it was fun. And it was a gateway to reading more. Then after that, after reading like the 3rd book, I was waiting for another book. I knew that one came out, but I was waiting for it to get to me. So I was thinking back of my favorite horror movies, and I like Psycho. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I'd say it's probably number 7 right now, but at the time it was number 1. And I went and found out that it was based on a book by Robert Bloch. So I found the book at a, bookstore of some sort, Half Price Books, I think. I don't know if we still have those here or not. I haven't seen one in a while. I'm sure we have them, but we have like Second and Charles now, which I need to go to soon. That's besides the point. I found Psycho by Robert Bloch. I read it, and it was absolutely amazing. It blew me away. I gave it probably 4 stars, but at the time, it was probably a 5-star read for me. I'm trying to find the book now. I actually am in a bidding war for it. I told myself no more bidding, but I saw it for $3, and I just threw a $3 bid in, and if I win it, I win it. If I lose it, I lose it. But I read Psycho by Robert Bloch and adored it. And after that, I started reading more books. And I picked up Carrie for the 2nd time because I read it a long time ago. And then I picked it up again because I didn't remember how it ended, and I was like on a roll with horror books because I just read Psycho by Robert Bloch. Then I read Carrie, and I loved that. Then it just kind of just went from there. I just started reading a bunch of horror books. It was slow at first, and I found that I was a very, very slow reader, having a reading disability. Basically, I not only do I get headaches when I read, but I switch words around. I'm not gonna say I'm dyslexic because I am. Well, they labeled me dyslexic, but I don't like flip around words as much as you would think. I more likely like either reread a sentence or skip a few sentences by accident. I think everyone does it, but they label me as dyslexic. So it's just really hard for me to read. Plus those headaches that I get for reading long periods of time. Um, it doesn't help. So, but I overcome those pains, and I just love reading. So I overcome everything, and I read. Um, Sorry if you hear talking in the background. They're working on the shower as we speak. Yeah, my love for horror books. I've always been a fan of horror movies. Ever since I saw, I think it was Freddy vs. Jason when I was a kid. Ever since then, I've been in love with horror movies. But uh, um, for horror books though, it all started with the Michael Bay series. They're not horror related at all, but I gravitated towards Psycho by Robert Bloch. That's what really started the horror craze. Ever since then, I've just been reading horror books. I find it hard to branch out, but I'm thinking about maybe one day going back to that Michael Bay series and reading from where I left off. I don't like series that much because I find it hard to get through them, unless of course they're very entertaining. But sometimes authors just write like filler books, and I don't like filler books. It's like they just exist to sell copies, and they won't matter in the grand scheme of the series, you know? So I don't like series that have fluff. I generally try to stay away from series. But I just recently bought a book that is apparently a part of a long series, and I'm kind of mad at myself because I didn't know it was a part of a long series. And I know if I read the book and I like it, then I'm gonna have to read the whole damn series. Apparently everyone's talking very highly about him. It's Joe R. Lansdale. The book's called Savage Season. It has a really cool picture with a lady with a nail through her hand. And I fell in love with the cover, and I thought it was going to be horror themed, but apparently it's more like a crime thriller, which is cool, I guess. I never really read a crime thriller before, but we'll see. Very interested in seeing what it's about, because the cover looks ill. It looks very cool. But I don't like series, is what I'm trying to get at. Right now, I am currently reading, I know you guys are sick of seeing this, but Bad Brains by Kathy Koja. I'm on page 177. Well, actually 178. And I'm enjoying it a lot, but I think I might take a break to read this quick read, which is by Wrath James White. I always mix up his name for some reason. Must be the dyslexia. This story is about these two friends, which I love anything about Friends, you know. I didn't grow up with Friends. I was kind of a loner. And if you want to know more about me, maybe I'll talk about me more. But basically, to sum it up, I grew up very lonely because of my autistic behavior. I alienated a lot of people. People would try to befriend me, but I pushed them away. I just wasn't one for friendships and dealing with people. I always couldn't connect well with people my age. I tended to either like younger or older people, which got me in trouble sometimes. Not saying that I did anything weird, but I'm saying that like when I was like 6, I'd go up to like 20-year-olds at the mall and tell them that I like their hair or something like that. And if if my mom wasn't careful, I could talk to an adult for a long periods of time, and I mean, I'm surprised I didn't get kidnapped by some pedo, you know. But then I also find it that I'm 26 and I tend to date like 22-year-olds. So nothing wrong with that, but there's definitely like an age gap, and there's differences obviously. I've always been because of my I'm really talking about myself too much, but because of my traumatic brain injury when I was a child, a baby to be honest, or to be more precise, I was a forceps delivery, born the wrong way, like staring up at the ceiling, head first. They had forceps and they had to pull me out, so my brain was damaged, which is why I have tics and I hand wag now. I have a cyst in my brain because of the forceps delivery, but that's all just useless knowledge that you don't need. What was I trying to go with this? What was I saying before? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is why I try not to get off topic. What was I saying, guys? I got off track. I don't know. I don't know what I was trying to say there. I apologize for getting off track, guys. But yeah, I had a TBI, had a traumatic brain injury, and I'm sure there was a point of bringing that up. So hold on one second. Okay, I found out. I went back and watched the recording. I was actually saying why I'm 4 years behind. I'm 4 years behind because of the traumatic brain injury. I was deaf, and I think for the first few days blind, but that didn't matter. I was deaf and I got tubes in my ears so I can hear, but I always talked with a speech impediment and a lisp. I eventually grew out of it, but I still say some words weirdly, but that's besides the point. I just didn't. I was held back in kindergarten because I wasn't mature enough, and I know you're thinking kids aren't mature, but I wasn't mature enough to be a kindergartner. So, and I was, even when I went to the first grade, they said that I wasn't ready for it. So I was like 4 years behind in the learning curve, but I was trying my hardest, and it was hard. Moving around a lot too didn't help, but being 4 years behind in the learning curve and not knowing what's going on half the time really hurt my performance and my learning development, or whatever you want to call it. So eventually I got to a point where I was far behind, where I had to make up credits and do so many tests, and school was impossible. And then I got sick and was missing days. Didn't know why I was sick at the time. So the school suggested I drop out, and I dropped out, and went and got, I attempted to get the GED, but I was too sick to stay awake during the test. So I went, and we found out I had cancer. I went and got my chemotherapy, and then just recently I got my GED, but that's a little jumping ahead there. I eventually got the cancer went away. Then I've been considered cured not too long ago. Like, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago I was considered clear or cured. But now I am 26. I've been reading for 3 years hardcore. I've been writing for 2 years hardcore. And yeah, I think it was either today or yesterday. It's been a 1 year anniversary of me starting my book, my first novel, which was Symbiotic. I started that a year ago, and everyone tells me it shouldn't take a year for you to write a book, but I'm a little slower than y'all, so you gotta give me some time. I'm almost done with Symbiotic. I'm just trying to give myself a break and work on my other thing while I think of an ending. But that will be released sometime either this year or next year. Everything's coming together for Symbiotic, so stay tuned for that. What else do you guys want to know? Told you basically everything about me. So that is my channel, Spooky Noodles. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a spooky night. I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Peace out.
Now I am become death, destroyer of